Hey everyone, Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com, and today we're looking at a Ryzen 5 3600 and an RTX 2060 based system from CyberPower. But the first thing I'm going to do, and you can probably hear why, is that. Let's do this. This just doesn't have enough RGB to keep my CPU cool. I mean, what am I going to do? Wow, the Antec cooler H2O, K120 and K240. This has got enough RGB and it's one of the most affordable AIOs on the market. I better click the link in the description to find out more. So whenever we get a system in from a system integrator, we have to take it at face value. This is what you get included. This is how it arrives to you. And that's why I've turned it off. Admittedly, it looks absolutely amazing with the RGB and everything just looking really, really nice. But did you hear that fan noise? I mean, if we told CyberPower about the fan noise, they probably would have said, and this isn't just CyberPower, any system integrator probably would have turned around and just said, can you go into the BIOS and just adjust the fan profile? Well, I'm treating this as a consumer. I'm a consumer, I've just bought this system. I don't want to do that because I don't know anything about computers. That's why I've gone to a system integrator, to buy something that is ready to go out of the box, Windows included, put my stuff on there, and away I go. I shouldn't have to go into the BIOS just to adjust the fans and everything. I'm hoping that it's a fan profile issue and not the fans that are included, which seem to be CyberPower branded ones. So if my guess is right, they're probably bought from China, put their sticker on there, and away they go. And I mean, they look very, very nice, and you get an included remote control and everything with it, so you can control all the lighting effects. And like I mentioned, it looks really, really nice. But let's talk about the specs of the actual PC. I mean, apart from the fans, the case you probably haven't recognised. It does look very similar to a lot of cases out there on the market, but it's actually made, manufactured, branded, however you want to word it, by CyberPower. And it's called the CyberPower Onyxia 2. So I'm guessing there was an Onyxia 1 and they've kind of developed on from it. At first glance, it actually looks pretty decent. You know, you've got this tempered glass here, you've got tempered glass on the front. Other than that, 7 expansion bays, it's a mid-tower case, has a PSU shroud, it has room for SSDs, has room for 3 fans at the front, which are included in this build, has space for 1 at the top, a little bit weird, would have liked to have seen another one, and maybe a removable dust filter, and an included fan and space and everything at the back. There's a little bit of room for cable management, there's some kind of holes for cable management and so forth. So the case, yeah, I kind of like it. It's got some CyberPower PC branding on there. It's nothing special, but it does the trick. So what about the insides on the PC? Well, this is where things get a little bit interesting. So to start with, the processor, Ryzen 5 3600. Anyone who's seen any of my live streams or videos before will know that I'm pretty much the biggest advocate for the Ryzen 5 3600. I think it's a great value for money CPU. If you want something that is going to tick all the right boxes for 1080p gaming, 1440p gaming, it's going to give you a nice sort of balanced system, the Ryzen 5 3600 really is it. And to balance that out, they have put the RTX 2060 with it. Sadly, they've gone with the MSI Ventus, which isn't exactly, let's say, the quietest or the best performing RTX 2060 out there. And it's a bit weird how they've used a 2060 and not a 2060 Super. When I tell you the price of this, which I will mention at the end, because we've done our own little comparisons, honestly, I think you probably could have fit a 2060 Super in there, maybe even a 27, maybe a 2070, but that's about as far as you're gonna go. But obviously some sacrifices do have to be made, and especially with everything that's going on in the world, prices are kind of going up and down a little bit like a yo-yo. So for that processor, obviously we need a motherboard to house it. And again, they've kind of gone a little bit on the cheap side. They've stuck with MSI, so things are nicely matched with the graphics card, but they've actually gone with the MSI B450M VDH Max, which, gotta admit, it's not the greatest motherboard out there on the market. It retails for about 70 quid. I mean, it's got everything that you'd expect, B450 chipset, 4 DIMM slots, but that's kind of where it starts and finishes. There's nothing amazing about it. And honestly, I think if maybe they spent an extra 20, 30 quid, they probably could have got something a little bit better, bordering on towards sort of Tomahawk territory. B450F, I know the VRMs aren't great, but it's got a lot more features on there, and probably for the type of user who's buying this, probably a little bit more well suited. With the memory, they've gone with the Corsair Vengeance LPX. 16 gig, more than enough for kind of your 1080p, 1440p gaming, but it's only 3000 megahertz memory. To pair with the 3600, I would have liked to have seen at least 3200 megahertz, and to be fair, this is probably the cheapest memory on the market at the moment, retailing for about 63 quid. for about 66 quid. I know, pushing the bank just that little bit, could have gone up to something a little bit better timings, and even 3600 megahertz memory. In terms of the storage, they have gone for an NVMe drive and a normal hard drive. So the hard drive is a Seagate 1TB drive, and the SSD didn't go for Seagate there for some weird reason, but they've actually gone for the Intel 660p 512 gig NVMe drive. In all honesty, I mean, there's not a huge amount of difference between the NVMe drives and a normal SATA SSD. So I am glad to see they kind of went with an NVMe drive, but then it kind of throws a few things out of balance. Like, why would you use an NVMe drive with a motherboard like that? Surely, I don't know, in my eyes, maybe gone for SATA, then gone for a slightly better motherboard, just to make it a little bit more balanced. I mean, a 1080p gamer, to be honest, they're not going to need NVMe. The other unique feature on this, and this kind of goes back to the whole, I guess, point of me saying maybe they could have plumped for a slightly better spec motherboard, is this motherboard doesn't have Wi-Fi. I mean, it doesn't even have a built-in rear I/O shield, which is sacrilege in this day and age, but it has a Wi-Fi card. Surely that Wi-Fi card, and from what I'm actually reading, it is an AC Wi-Fi card. You could have gone for a slightly better motherboard that would have had that included, would have looked a little bit neater, tidier, save space, and it would have all been included, and you would have got extra features because of that motherboard. It's not just spend an extra 30 quid and get a motherboard with Wi-Fi. You're going to get other features to go along with that. Wi-Fi is just one of them features. The other thing that I don't like on this build, and it does sound like I'm kind of getting a little bit, let's say, over-analytical or over-critical of everything, but mustard and ketchup cables. So they're actually using the InWin A55 550 watt power supply. It's an 80 plus power supply. Not 80 plus gold, bronze, silver, just 80 plus. So it's got something going for it, but them cables look absolutely hideous. And to be fair, I've built systems myself for around this price, which I will tell you now is £1,049, which I just think is just a bit too much for what you're getting here. I've built systems for under £1,000 with custom cables. Even if you can't do custom cables, at least get a power supply that has braided cables or just better cables than that. I'd be happy if they looked like that, but were black cables instead of yellow, orange, green, red, black. It just doesn't look nice at all. So one thing I do like about CyberPower, I know, silver lining and all, you actually get this nice little bag, which basically includes everything that you need. So all your instructions and extra sort of retention brackets. If you ever wanted to change anything at a later date, you've kind of got yourself covered here. But that's not really enough of a saving grace. The other saving grace for this is, yes, you are going to pay a little bit more because it is from a system integrator than maybe building it yourself. So I actually priced up this build myself, including Windows, and it came to £977, which is a little bit cheaper than the £1,049 that CyberPower are asking for. But to be fair, I could probably save about another £93 by ditching Windows and buying a code off eBay for about 3 quid, which I've done many, many times and is perfectly legitimate, and you're going to save yourself in total well over 150 quid. Put it towards a better motherboard and maybe even a better graphics card, like a 2070 or a 2060 Super, but of a decent caliber, not a Ventus card. Is that enough to sort of, you know, save everything? Probably not. So, 3-year warranty though. 2-year on the parts, 3-year labour, 6 months return to base, click and collect, or whatever they want to call it. If you have a problem with this within 6 months, they will collect it for you, sort it all out, and send it back. Other than that, yeah, you get the 2-year and the 3-year. And someone builds it for you. But to be fair, I'm kind of hoping that the fans are just bad in general, and it's not someone's mistake, because if you're going to a system integrator and they're making mistakes like that, well, I don't know, it kind of says a lot about what the company are doing with that particular system. And I'm sorry, I know CyberPower aren't going to like this, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So yeah, there might be one saving grace though, and that comes down to the performance. So I guess really, yeah, let's run them, see how it performs. So first up, looking at the oh so famous Fortnite, and we're running this on epic settings at 1440p. As you can see, everything looked pretty smooth and we was getting easily 60 to 70 FPS. Moving on to Doom Eternal, bit of a weird one because this is actually set to Ultra, which is more kind of like their medium, as there are actually 2 higher graphics settings. But the 2060 doesn't actually have enough video memory to go to them settings. Either way, we was getting 70 FPS average at 1440p. Next up is Borderlands 3, quite a popular game, and running this at medium settings, we were getting 65 to 75 frames per second, pretty much in the thick of it with a big gunfight. Next game up is Metro Exodus, which is a pretty demanding game, but we were still able to run it at high with ray tracing on and still able to get 40 to 50 FPS. Obviously you could tweak the settings just a little bit to maybe even get over that magical 60 FPS number. Grand Theft Auto 5 is the next one in our list, and we were running this on high settings again at 1440p. This really didn't struggle, getting over 100 FPS pretty much throughout. Next game up is actually a personal favourite of mine, Elder Scrolls Online. We were able to run this at high settings at 1440p, and we was able to get anywhere between 100 to 120 FPS, even in the middle of a massive fight. Another personal favourite of mine is The Division 2, and on this at 1440p again, able to run this at high settings, and we were able to get over that magical 60 FPS number and even get up to 70 FPS. And lastly, Call of Duty Warzone. We were able to run this on high. It has got ray tracing enabled, but it doesn't really work that great on the Warzone setting, but we're still able to get 60 to 70 FPS. So again, you're not going to have any problems there. So benchmarks out the way. I mean, what can we sort of take away from that? I guess really, yes, you could game at 1440p on it, but don't be expecting, amazing results. You're not going to be expecting to run this on a 1440p 144 Hz or 165 Hz monitor. It's just not really going to happen in the types of games that people are playing at the moment. 1080p really is the sweet spot for this, but in all honesty, I think you could build a system slightly cheaper. I've built some around £800, which can run 1080p sort of games, pretty flawlessly. And in all honesty, I think they look a little bit better. They've got better memory. They've got, even better cooling and a better graphics card and things like that. It's just, I'm finding reasons to try and like this, but I honestly can't. And I honestly believe that CyberPower have made a bit of a mistake with this particular system. Maybe they can go back to the drawing board, reduce it by about 100 quid, which seems like a massive ask really, but I think that's the only way they're going to do it. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section below. What could you build for £1,049? Because like I mentioned, I built something just on par for this and it's a lot cheaper. So yeah, sorry CyberPower, I know you're not going to like this video, but that's the truth of it. And it's just too goddamn noisy. So there you go. Also, you will probably have noticed all the way through this video, I've had the eTeknix merch sitting here. So head over to store.eteknix.com and you can find lots of crazy stuff, like these smart thermoses, which with a little tap will tell you the temperature of what's inside. Other than that, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know exactly what to do, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye. Too noisy.